Okay, and hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we're going to be trying to do is very quickly we're going to be going over all the settings that we need to do for our collisions and for our boxes and for our box collisions, so then that way we can get the hits and the overlaps set up correctly. So one thing I want to do that I didn't get a chance to do in the last video is I have a slight mistake from the S mine. So if we click on that real quick and we were to right click and type in get player character, okay, we're going to add that to the component or to the person that is going to be taking damage. So in this case it is going to be our first person character. So with that, this is now completed and we can hit compile and save. Okay, and with that we can close down the S mine. So from there, we're going to go to the H missile. So this code is actually going to look very similar to what we did in the last one. I'm going to go ahead and delete everything off the front end, and I'm going to delete the collision settings there. Let me go and take a look at my notes. And for the box on the H missile, we're going to want to click on it, and let's go down to its collision settings, which would be there. And let's just double check and make sure what we've got. So the top is going to be no, so we don't want it to generate a hit. We do want it to generate an overlap. We want this to be no, and we do want the custom collision. We want everything to be on ignore except for the pawn and except for the projectile. So with that one selected, we can right click and we're going to say add event from box, and we're going to turn into collision, and we're going to say that this one is going to be the overlap event, which is not going to cause us any damage. So with the box selected, right click, add event for box, and let's say collision, and on begin overlaps. So that's going to be what's going to start, or what's going to get the thing to blow up by itself without causing us any damage. From there, we're going to go to the cube, and let's check the cube's collision settings. So with the cube selected, we want we do want this to generate a hit event. We do not want it to do an overlap. We do want this to be yes. We need it to be on custom. Collision settings are correct. We want this to be registered as a pawn, and we want it to block everything. So I believe that this one is correct. So with that, with the cube selected, we're going to right click, event, add event from cube, collision, and we want this to be on a hit. So let's grab that and drag it into the apply damage. And so now this should be on apply of hit. We want the damage. Let's say that's going to be 10% on the missile. We then want it to spawn the explosion. We want the explosion to destroy itself. We want it to happen where the cube is happening, and then we want everything that is part of that to be destroyed. So we can hit compile and save, and at this point the homing missile should now be working correctly, and we should not have to do anything else with that. So let's go ahead and close that one out. And with the zombie, well, the code looks a lot nicer on this. So let's go and check its settings. So we're going to go to the zombie. Now with the zombie, we do have a capsule and we do have a cube. And what I have done is I have separated and put an additional sphere around the outside of it. I don't want to use the capsule to do this. So we're going to do add component, scroll down until we see the sphere collision. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that that sphere collision is just a bit bigger than the capsule. So let's go, I believe it's 2.3 or 3.3 and 3.3, tab and 3.3. And that should make one that is just slightly bigger than the capsule that we're sitting in. So now let's go to its collision settings. Since we have the sphere selected, let's check and see what the settings are for the sphere. And what I have is do not generate any hits, generate the overlap. We do not want this to go over. We do want this to be custom settings. Oops, sorry, custom settings. So we're going to send that to custom. We do want the query and the physics on. So let's click on that and scroll down to query enable physics. We do want this to be registered as a pawn. and we need basically everything to be ignored except for the pawn and for the projectile. So with that, that's the sphere. Now let's go to the capsule because it does have some settings that we need to take off. So let's go to its collision settings. So capsule, scroll down until we see its collision settings and open those up. And let's see what we have for the capsule. So if I scroll down, I should have, and I don't want this to generate anything. Essentially what this is going to do is just keep the player in the game. Other than that, I don't need this particular one to be doing anything. Let's switch that back over to this. So the world static and world dynamic will be what keep it on the game board instead of falling through the floor, and then we needed to ignore everything else on that. From there, we are going to have the okay, so the cube settings that we need for the zombie are going to be as such. We are going to need, so we're going to select the cube, and we're going to go to, we do want it to generate a hit. We do want it to generate an overlap. The character can be set to yes, then custom. Then we need this to be collisions with query and physics. We need this to be registered as a pawn, and we need it to be blocking everything. So then that way it will go ahead and generate the hit collision. So with that, we now have the zombie character ready. So we can hit compile and save, and we should be able to close that one out. Okay, so continuing on with the shooting turret. Again, we need to do the same thing. We need to go ahead and get rid of both of the overlap and the hit event because we are going to be replacing those. The other thing that I also like to do with this piece is I like to put the apply damage before the sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all the nodes for that. We're going to bring that over here to this side. I'm going to connect that back up to the damaged actor. This is going to then go to the sequence. And then from there, it's going to create the sprite that explodes and all the other good stuff from all the other ones. All right, let's just move that back over, and then we'll take a look at the collision settings. Okay, so remember that with the shooting turret, we can actually take damage two ways. We can take it through the projectile that's going to be thrown at us, which we're going to fix in just a second, and then we can also do it with the shooting turret itself when we run into it, right? So just like we did with the cube, with the zombie, what I want to do is I want to add another capsule around the outside of this. And again, the reason for this is so then that way we can create the collision effects here on the capsule and not on the actual capsule on the sphere. So let's click into the viewer. Let's click on sphere. And again, this is going to be about 3.3 tab 3.3 tab 3.3. And that should give us a sphere that is just slightly larger than the one that's there. Let's go ahead, apply, and save. And on the sphere, if we have that one selected, what we want to do is go down to its collision settings, and let's see what it has set for, what I've set for myself here. Okay, so this is going to be off, so no generating of a hit. We do want it to generate an overlap. We want this to be to the no. This is going to be a custom. We do want the physics and query enabled, so collisions enabled. We want this to be registered as a pawn, and registered as a pawn. And then we want everything to be ignored except for, again, the pawn and the projectile. Okay, so that's what the sphere is going to be doing. From there, let's go to the capsule. So the capsule component. Again, we're going to find the collision settings for the capsule. And whoops, I actually closed them down. There we go. Okay. So with this one, we don't want any collisions to happen. I guess it's okay if this is on yes. This needs to be to custom. We do want query and physics available. We do need this to register as a pawn component. And then to keep it on the board, we need to block everything up until world dynamic, and then everything else will be ignored. So then that way everything can go through the capsule. From there, we're going to select the cube, and inside the cube, the settings for that are going to be, yes, we want it to generate an overlap, a hit. We do not want it to generate an overlap. We want this to be yes, custom. We do want collision enabled for the query physics. We do want this to register as a pawn, and then we want everything to remain blocked on that. So with that done, we can go ahead and hit compile and save, and we should be able to close that out. And now we're going to go to the turret, the projectile itself. So let's look and see what we have for the projectile. So with the projectile, we left, we are going to use, because it doesn't need to be kept inside the game. Once it hits something, it's going to destroy itself anyways. So as far as the code is concerned, everything is there as far as this, as far as the event hit. The only thing we need, we need to change the event hit, and we need this to come off of the sphere. So from the sphere, with the sphere selected, we're going to right click. We're going to type in add events for sphere. We need this to go to collisions, and this is going to be on begin overlap of the sphere, and this we're going to attach to the apply damage. Okay, so from there, let's check the collision settings. Okay, so checking on the sphere first, we do want it to generate an event. We do want it to generate an overlap. We do want it on yes. We need this to be custom, collision enabled with query and physics. We need it to be read as a pawn, and we need everything to be blocked on it. Okay, so then that way it will generate the hit event. From there, we're going to go to the collision component itself. We're going to scroll down and look at its collision settings. So for it, what we have is we do want it to register a hit. We want it to register an overlap. This can be set to yes. We need it to be set to custom. We want this to be set to no collisions. Okay, and we need this to also be registered as a pawn. And then we need everything blocked except for pawns, which are going to be an overlap. Okay, so we can go ahead and hit compile and save for that one. And if you remember from the last tutorial, we opened up the first-person projectile, or we shot at the pawns, or at the S mines. And when we did, our balls went right through because we got everything to work for the FlameThrower, and what it did was it knocked out some of the stuff that we had for the ball. So what we need to do for this is if we go to its collision component, and let's scroll down to collisions. And for collisions, what we should have is we do not want it to generate an event. We do want it to generate an overlap. Yes for the character. This needs to be the custom. Query needs to be set to no physics, no collision. And projectile needs to be there, but it needs to have everything on block. So everything down the middle block. From there, let's go to sphere. And on sphere's collisions, what we want is we want this to say no event hit. We do want it to create an overlap. This can be set to yes. This needs to be set to no collisions. And with that, we should be done. Yep, with that we should be done. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit compile and save, and let's go and do some checking and see if everything is working correctly. So what I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to actually set up a few areas with some enemies, one enough to be able to run into them, one enough to be able to hit them with, so basically to test all 4 situations that we need to test. So if you'll give me a few minutes, let me go ahead and get this set up, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we are almost ready to test. Let me get this out of the way to make sure that we don't have this hit anything before too early. And actually, let me move some of these things out of the way a little bit because they are probably a little bit too close. And let me be able to swing around on this side. Okay, so now I should be okay. We can test everything. So we have the missiles or the mines up here at the beginning, which are the stationary mines. These are going to be the homing missiles. These over here are the cubes, the zombies. And then over here, what I have are the turrets, the projectile turrets. So let's go ahead and push play. And we already had a group of them explode on their own, so we'll go back and check and see what happened with them. So let's check. Okay, so that does cause us damage. We shoot it, it does not cause us damage. Let's hit it with the flamethrower. It didn't cause us damage. And we hit it with the ice machine and it didn't cause us damage. Okay, let's go over to this one. We run over it, it causes us damage. We shoot it, it does not. We hit it with the flamethrower, it does not. And we hit it with the ice machine and it does not. We run into it. Okay, so we also have something wrong with the zombie, so we'll check that in just a second as far as our collision settings with that. Okay, so it is also blocking everything else. So let's go quickly and check to see why the zombie and the turrets are not working correctly. I have an idea on... Let's go back to zombies. Let's go back to the shooting turrets. Let's go back to the turrets themselves. And it may be that we did not put anything on them. They're just accepting, they're just auto exploding because we didn't actually set those things up. So, wonderful. Let's go back to let me see what I have on my notes for the turret. Okay, so the first one down here is going to need to be a overlap on the sphere. So let's go to sphere, right click, add event sphere, collisions, overlap. Okay, let's go ahead and connect that one. And on the one above, we need to have the hit. So this is going to be on component hit cube. So we're going to grab the cube, right click, add event for collision, and this is going to be hit, and then we're going to move that over. Wow, I can't believe I actually missed that. That's a huge step. Let's go and hit compile and save, and that should stop those guys from auto exploding. Hopefully, it's not guaranteed. And let's go and see what we did with the, let's see, with the zombie character, where we messed up on it. And let's go to here, back to zombie, back to zombie. Okay, so part of this may be that they were at the same level with each other, so it was inside cube instead of being outside of cube. I'm not sure if that would make too big of a difference. Let me check its collision settings. So with the sphere, I have everything the way I want it there. Let's look at the cube. We do not need the overlap event. That was probably what was causing us to auto explode also. Okay, so we need to get rid of that overlap event on the cube. Let's check the capsule. Okay. And on the capsule, we had changed it from a pawn to a world static. So let's leave that way, so that way it doesn't, it's not affected by any of the pawn stuff. So let's see if that works now. So we'll go and double check. Okay, hopefully things don't auto-explode. Okay, so now those guys auto-exploded, but only 2 of them. Interesting. So, we run into them. They should be causing us damage. We shoot them, nothing. We hit them with the flamethrower and that, also nothing. Let's go over here. Why 2 of them auto-explode and the other one doesn't? Okay, so 2 of the zombies auto-exploded. That could be because they're touching each other. Okay. Alright, so that's working, except for the fact that they're auto-exploding each other. And now we gotta figure out why the zombies are still not taking damage. Okay, well, I think I found it. So this is bad. This needs to be changed out. The bottom one that's going to be hit for the projectile is actually going to need to be coming off of the sphere. And we're going to right click and create this as a begin overlap. Okay. And that means that the one above it needs to be the hit on the cube. So let's click that. All right, so that should take care of it. Let's go and see now. Of course, they auto-explode. Let's do no collisions on the capsule. Explode again. Is it because they're all touching each other? Now they're not even showing up. That means they're falling through. Because we can't have that on no collisions. Okay, so now they're there. They're not falling through. They cause us damage when we run into them. They don't damage. And there it is. Okay. Boom. No damage, no damage. No damage. Oops. Damage. Projectile. Hits. Alright, fantastic. So now we have everything creating damage when it's supposed to and when it's not. Okay, so there it is. Everything's working. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.